If I told you you could buy a house for no money, well, none of your money, would you be interested? Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. This is Alice.
Hello.
I'm Steve. And we're the hosts for the Property Legacy podcast. And today we're going to tell you that how you can buy property for no money at all and benefit from profits every single month.
The ongoing joke with you is that you love spending other people's money.
Yes, I specialise in it.
You specialise in it, and it's always something that people want to know more about. So this is why we decided to create this episode today, to spell it out as simply as we possibly can. It is possible to get into property with no money.
Yes.
You just need to know who to speak to, how to speak to them, and what is going to attract them to working with you collaboratively when it comes to a deal.
And having the self-belief that people are just going to give you their money, which happens more often than you actually think.
It does. And I think there's always this worry with hierarchy of people. We can think that people are above us, and actually everyone's just a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Just because people are successful in different areas doesn't make them any different to yourself or the people that are in your life. Just because somebody makes more money than you do doesn't mean they're not somebody who would want to work with you and do business with you. I think that's such a difficulty with belief that we have when it comes to imposter syndrome. Like, oh, we wouldn't possibly want to work with someone like that. They might find a lot more value doing a deal with yourself than doing a deal with somebody who makes the same amount of money as them. It's a completely different experience for them. It's an opportunity to also help their financial state, but also help somebody else. And again, it's all about collaboration and putting yourself out there and having that confidence to say, this is what I'm trying to do. Can you help me do it?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the people with money will want to spend their time earning their money the way they know how to do it, and they do it really well. So they could be a self-made millionaire. They could have equity in a house that they want to make use of, but they're really good at what they know. They might not know how to do property investing. They might need somebody to help them do that. And you being somebody that's trained, you got educated, got a track record behind you, you work well with people, you're the ideal person to talk to help people invest their money and get the most out of it. And from your point of view, just by putting in what's classed as a sweat equity, so you're doing the hard graft, finding the property, renovating the property, getting it let out, and doing all that kind of stuff, is your equity into the deal. And there's people out there that have no idea how to do it and don't really want to know how to do it. They just want to invest their money and get more out than they would do if it was in a bank account.
So let's start by talking about the first strategy, which is joint ventures.
Mm-hmm. So joint ventures, or JV, is just that. It's two people or two entities, either companies or single peoples or groups getting together. Somehow they get the money together. Either they've all got equal shares of money, or one person has the money, one person has the deal, and can do all the work. So they work together to make this deal happen, and you set up a limited company around that deal. So why would somebody want to do that? Well, as I said before, they know how to make their money, or they don't have the time to go and find properties, or they're all living their best life on the beach somewhere, and they just want you to go and do all the work and help them carry on living on the beach. You know, they could be in Thailand and just spending next to nothing from day to day and just living the best life. You will do all the hard work, and as a joint venture, the joint venture makes profit and you all benefit. So in a nutshell, it can be any two entities coming together to then go and do a deal or go and do an amount of business. You can do it for one property, or you could do the same joint venture for many properties in that structure.
So when it comes to a joint venture, how does it work legally? What are those requirements?
So in any kind of contractual venture, you need to get everything written down on paper, checked with your legal team that you're cover yourselves for every eventuality. Effectively, it's like agreeing how to run the business, who does what, and how to split the shares and how to split the profits. But also, if it all goes wrong, how to sell everything off, how to promote everything, how to kind of divorce each other as such in that kind of agreement. And that should all be written into the contract. Mm-hmm. And the process of doing this, you would set up heads of terms, so you effectively sit down with each other, you agree what each person will do, you agree all the bits and pieces you want to agree on, and then you give that to your legal team and say, right, can you turn that into a contract? Then you both sign it, and off you go. It's quite straightforward.
Okay. So on the other side of that, let's talk about rent to rent and that potential option.
Oh yes, rent to rent's a really good option because all you're doing is you're renting somebody's property and then renting it out for more and keeping a profit. Now, there's a lot of people out there that say rent to rent doesn't work. There's a lot of people out there that why would anybody rent a property to you then allow you to rent it out for more? Why don't they just rent it out for more?
Yeah.
And effectively, it all comes down to finding the right person that would like to operate like that. So you might find a landlord who manages his property themselves, they advertise it themselves, but they're sick to death of actually managing the tenant.
Yeah.
They don't really want that. They hate the fact that a tenant moves out every 6 months and they have to do a bit more painting and yeah, so it means there's a lot of involvement for them. And you can offer them a 3 or 5 year deal or longer if you want, where you would guarantee the rent coming in. They would get, okay, not the full rent, but they're not doing a lot, so they're just benefiting from that. And as long as all their bills are covered and they've got profit coming in from that, they'll be quite happy for you to take all the rest of the work on.
Yeah.
But from you as an investor, why would you rent somebody's house and then rent it out for more? Well, whether you do a rent to rent or whether you get a mortgage and buy it and then rent it out, you still will be paying that amount to a mortgage company or a landlord. It's the same amount, roughly. So if you view it that way, and it's a good contracts are in place, you always make sure that you can break the deal every 6 months. Make sure that if there is a mortgage involved, that the mortgage is getting paid, and that they're happy that you're doing this type of thing. But you can find these deals. You can rent the property, and you might not go and rent it out on a buy-to-let basis for much more, but you could do for a couple £100 extra. Or you could turn it into a service accommodation, and all you're paying for is putting the furniture in there, making sure it's up to regulation, and renting it out. Mm-hmm. And so your biggest risk is 6 months of rent payments. And if that's the biggest risk, you could literally put it on a credit card and buy the furniture and get that first property up and running and have income within the first month.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's why rent to rent can work. And okay, you don't own it. So if it doesn't work, that's fine. You can give it back. There's no hardship there.
Yeah.
It's well within your rights to give it back. And you can have multiple of these, multiple properties. And if it makes you £200 or £300 each, you've not put a lot of money in. You get £300 a month out of it. And if you have 10 of them, that's £3,000.
Exactly.
You can retire. You don't have to do too much. And it's simple as that. You don't look, everybody looks at rent to rent as that's the one that everybody does if they've got no money. Mm. And it's rubbish. It's an option to do for any investor. And if you ask an investor, would you rather spend £100,000 buying this property, then renovating it, then put it on a service accommodation, or would you? Rent a property off somebody that's already there, ready to go, and then just rent it out as a service accommodation. Which makes more sense? You're getting £300 for an £8,000 investment, with all the furniture that you might have to buy. A lot of times it's less than that. Go to IKEA, very cheap. Or would you go and spend £100,000, then renovate it, then put furniture in, and then make money? Your return on investment is going to be a lot, because if you rent it out for £100 a night instead of £100 a week, then you could, even 50% of the time. So in a month, 15 nights, that's £1,500. You got a little bit of payments to make, maybe £500 in bills and mortgage, the rent and all that kind of stuff. You're still making £1,000.
Yeah.
Or even if it was £500 profit at the end of it, it's £500 for next to nothing.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's the way you need to look at it. Not listen to the naysayers. Find a way where you can make it work for you and the people you can work with. And rent to rent can be a huge business on its own, or it can be a strategy that you use that fills in between buying other properties, or gets you to the point where you've got the cash flow so that you can then go and buy properties.
So the next option is lease options, and how would you say the best ways to go about approaching sellers in this instance with this strategy?
Okay, so lease options and purchase lease options effectively run almost identical as a rent to rent. A lease option as a lease is you just renting a property, and you're going to rent it for a 5-year period. That's like we said for rent to rent. There's no voids. You don't have to do. They don't have to handle any tenants or do any maintenance, and then you rent it out as service accommodation or whatever you want to do. So it's exactly the same. The difference is with a purchase option. So the purchase part means that you agree that this property is worth $200,000 today, and in that 5 years' time, 5 years that you're going to rent the property out, you can have the option to buy it at $200,000. Now, so that it means from a vendor's point of view, the person who's selling the property or the person who's renting the property gets rent every month, and also the asking price that what we wanted, or even you could give them 110% of the asking price. So it's a deal win-win for them, because they're getting rent and the full asking price, rather than one or the other. So that's why it works for vendors. Obviously, you need people that have that frame of mind and understand it. So you might need to take time to discuss things. I would never turn around to somebody and say, "Oh, by the way, I want to have a meeting about a purchase lease option," because they'll have no idea. And a lot of estate agents have no ideas because it's come from the commercials world. But we are using it. We've used it multiple times in the last 6 years, and it works really well in residential and in the residential market. So, how to approach people? So, approaching people is very straightforward. You go and view a property like you normally would do. If the property is up for rent and on the market at the same time, so it's on Rightmove under both sections, then that deal would satisfy both of those options.
Mm-hmm.
So that identifies that there's nobody living there, so you could take it on. They're quite happy with the rent, and they're quite happy to sell it.
Yeah.
So it used to be you'd walk around town and you'd see a for sale board and a to let board of the same property. Now it's more online that you see the two, but it's still the same option. You go and view it as a prospective buyer, and then go, okay, well, for me to take this on, we'd have to set it up with the deal this way.
Yeah.
And it just offer them the deal where you'd rent it off them for X amount per month, and also in that time period you would buy it off them for the full asking price or whatever price you want to give. And it is simple as that. You talk to people, you ask, what you would do is, if it's with an estate agent, make sure that your estate agent understands that no matter what, they're going to get their money.
Yeah, I think it's all about really clear communication in these situations as
Yeah.
well. And not leaving any situation or conversation with people confused, making it really clear on exactly what the goal is. So let's talk about angel investors now and private finance.
Right. So private investors. Now everybody gets hooked up on you need an angel investor. You know, this secret multi-millionaire or billionaire that just wants to throw the money around and invest in lots and lots of different companies. They do exist. I've met quite a few of them, but they are just like you and me. Usually they've retired and they've got nothing to do and they get bored, so they help other people.
They're usually also not the loudest person in the room and not the person flaunting how much money they've got. Probably won't turn up in a big flashy car, probably won't have a Rolex on, probably have a hole in the sleeve of their jumper. People always have this idea of what they think success looks like. Most people that have it don't make it very clear, and the people that are usually putting it on are the people that are the loudest in the room, wanting to create some kind of lasting impression with people, and it's the more of those types of angel investors and people that you meet, the more clear it is to the people that potentially aren't doing as well as they're making out. So it's very interesting.
You'd want to have any investor have the similar kind of thought processes and similar kind of priorities as you do.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want somebody that flaunts that they're going on private jets here, there, and everywhere, and Lamborghinis loads in the garage, because might not be what you want. You want to get to a point that somebody understands that how the system works, how to invest in people, and how to help people grow.
Exactly.
That's it. And 95% of you out there know your next investor. Know your first investor. Know the person that will invest in you. And it's just you don't know who they are because human beings we're very judgmental, and we'll sit here thinking, oh yeah, there's Joe, there's this and that person and this person, but they don't get any money. Why would they invest in me? And it's just like, well, you might not know, but they might have an inheritance in a trust somewhere. They might have a property because they just got together with a girlfriend and they're living together, so now they have a house empty and they rent it out. And they might want you to help them, and they will then invest with you, and or they could release some equity from that, and work with you. It doesn't have to be a multimillionaire. This Mr. Monopoly that everybody thinks about, and my first investor was somebody I know very well, and they had that amount of money to lend me at the time, and it's as simple as that. You don't need money if you can work with people that have the money, and they'll put the money in, and then you go and do the deal. And that's what we say when you don't need money. You do need somebody's money, but you don't always need your money. And your investor could be the guy down the road that has the butchers, the guy down the road that has a scaffolding company that does really well, and they have profits. And guess what? They have profits, and they have to spend money on tax and give it to the government. And in any company, you can invest in property with your money before it gets to the end of the year with the tax issue. So you actually reduce the amount of profits and reduce the amount of tax you spend. So a business person could be your next investor because the system is set up so that you can invest your company's profits tax free in assets, and that's the bit assets. So it's property, gold, or things like that that are physical assets. You can invest the cash basically with tax free money.
So obviously, from what we've spoken about, what would you say would be ideally the first steps into choosing a strategy, or choosing the types of people that you want to work with?
Okay, so every point of the way you need to have. We always say you need a good education, which is true. But you need to educate yourself first, because you need to find a deal that will interest investors. You found a great deal, then there will be people all wanting to invest in you and your project. Whether that is private investors, whether that's financial institutions, whether that's just the mum and dad next door, there are people who want to help you and people who want to work with you. And that's the way you need to kind of set things up. At the end of the day, you find a good deal, you will find investors. You might not know where they are right now, and you might need to work on your network. You might need to network with people. But if you network with uh, just people at the pub that don't want to do property, you won't find anybody to do that. But if you start networking with business groups or with anywhere where there's going to be a lot of people to network, so even if there was a property convention or a business convention and you went along and you just talked to people as you wandered around, that is networking. If you go to your local PIN network, might not find many investors there, but there'll be a lot of people that will give you advice about how to do things. You can go to private networks. You can go to lots of events around the country. Just look at Eventbrite. There's networking events almost every night and daytime. Go along, have a chat to people, and you'd be surprised at how many people go, "Oh yeah, that's something. I know somebody that does that. I know somebody that's interested in doing that type of thing." And overnight, you can find an investor, or you can find somebody that will work with you, or you can find somebody that will coach you, and all of these things will get you to that point. But if you have a deal, you will be able to find it. And if you don't believe me, the issue is a client of ours, Corey. He's in Morecambe. He's found a great deal, and I was talking at our Manchester network with somebody who just happens to invest in property in Cheshire, so nowhere near Morecambe, and that he wants to get into HMOs, which Corey has found a good HMO deal, and he wants to get into a joint venture to learn. So he's quite happy putting the money in that Corey needs to then go and do that. Meanwhile, Corey then goes to a different business network meeting in Lancaster and actually bumps into somebody that works with Manchester United Football Club and has a lot of money that wants to invest in property. And it's just in the same week, we found two investors that want to invest in his project.
Amazing.
And, he's only just started in property this month. So within the last 20 days, he's gone from learning how to do a bit about property, finding a good deal, organising the planning side of things and checking out that he can do his deal, and found two investors.
Amazing.
All in 20 days.
That's incredible. The answer to our question, can you invest in property with no money?
Yes,
You
definitely.
absolutely can. And I think it's so important to remember that the reason why so many strategies exist is because everybody is different. Some will be more suited to people than others. But as always, if you have any questions about anything that we've spoken about in today's episode, feel free to pop them below in the comments. We love to hear from you all. We love hearing your feedback. And if you have any property related questions, then you can tune in to Steve's free Q&A, which is live every Monday night on social media. Or you can pop them in the comments and we'll make sure to respond to them as on a future podcast episode. So thank you so much for tuning in today. If you like what you have heard, make sure you're subscribed, you're liking us, leaving us reviews and putting on your notifications for when we have new episodes that are coming out. You can find Property Legacy Podcast on YouTube, Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can come and find us on our website propertylegacypodcast.co.uk and on all of the social medias where we share lots of bits of content, upcoming courses, ways that you can work with us, free resources, and lots of things to help get you started on your property journey. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you for our next episode in 2 weeks' time. And hopefully, the sunshine is going to continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that list of the outro gets longer and longer and longer every time we do
I
it.
know, so many things. So many things.
All the stuff that we put together
Yeah.
from nothing
From nothing.
last 12 months ago.
Literally. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will speak to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.